Okay, well, welcome Nuria, and welcome Wine Club members, those of you who are with us live, and also those of you who will be joining, watching whenever you can, and welcome. And we're here with Nuria Garrote y Esteve. Nuria is the importer and the person behind why we have such incredible Spanish wines available here in the US. So her role is very important for all of us to have access to these incredible wines. And the name of her company is Vinovico. And we've been, I was talking with Felix, my husband, and we've been purchasing your wines since, gosh, I feel like 2016 or around then. The Principia Mathematica. Yeah, it's like one of the first wines that we started purchasing from you and fell in love with everything that you do. To give a little intro, I just want to say that we're going to host these virtual events once a quarter, and they'll be recorded so people can watch whenever they decide to enjoy the wines from that month. And we'll do in-person events kind of dispersed in between. You'll probably see Felix more in person. He is camera shy, but I am not. So you get me in the virtual experiences, which is great for me because I enjoy it. And I'm excited to have a deep conversation with Nuria about her philosophy around wine. We know that, another thing to tell you about the Wine Club, just that the importer for September's wine, so next month we'll be in town in Asheville for the Chow Chow event. So if you're going, please try to find us there. And, I'll just say that the reason that we started this Wine Club is because Felix and I and our whole team have like a very deep, passionate love of Spain, the producers in Spain, and the incredible wines that are being produced there. I mean, I think there's such quality and interesting stories that come behind the wineries and the producers. And we really wanted to create this wine club because oftentimes, I don't know, wine is intimidating, I would say, and when you're first starting out and figuring it out. So when you get a box of curated selection of 3 bottles that have been chosen for you with a story about why they're incredible, you can start to learn about wine varieties and things that you may have never ventured into trying before. And I think that creates a deeper connection with Spain and the incredible producers that are there. And we couldn't do this without Nuria and Vinovico. And so tell us, Nuria, a little bit about your background, when you started Vinovico and your connection to wine.
Great. Well, thank you, Katie, for having me. And bona tarda, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Nuria. As Katie said, I was born and raised in Barcelona, Spain. And I spent a lot of my summers in Galicia, which is the northwest of Spain. We'll be traveling there with one of the wines today. And I actually live in Detroit. So the connection Barcelona-Detroit is my roots and my home. My home is Detroit. And the reason behind is I'm a mechanical engineer. So the automotive industry brought me to Detroit. And once here, I wanted to drink the wines that I missed from home. So that kind of, started Vinovi and Company.
I love that. Did you know that I studied chemical engineering in school?
Yeah.
And so two people who started in engineering and then veered to a totally different path. So
yeah, I find it more nurturing, the wine.
Yes.
Right?
Like me with food, I find it more nurturing. That's exactly right.
The connection with people and with nature. And I see much more passion in wine that I see in the automotive industry.
Talking about that, the passion, what is your philosophy in building the portfolio of wines that you import?
There are many things. To get started, we like to follow people that are hands on the vineyard. I am a big believer that if you do something yourself and you have a vision, there's going to be more chances for success. So looking for people that are highly committed to viticulture, that they own the land and that they have a vision, and that vision we're going to see it through the wine. So in addition to that, very important to respect the environment. So people that they care for the vines, like gardeners. Often we say producers. I don't like to use the term winemaker, and that producers are, gardeners, because they care about the plant very, very much. They understand wine comes from the expression of the grape. So doing that type of work is it's essential for our portfolio. So I look and seek for wines that I like to drink, and then people that are behind those wines, if they follow within the values, passion, commitment to viticulture and quality, then that's what we're looking for.
I love that. It's very similar in the food world. Like, I think that when we are looking for producers or products or new ingredients, oftentimes, we're looking for people with that passion and connection. And usually when they're super passionate about quality, they're also really passionate about the earth and the land and the processes and everything that they do. And it makes my life easier because the food tastes more delicious. It's like all you need is a little olive oil, salt, and that's it, because you have such quality. And so I have the wines, right, all open and ready here next to me. And so I'm wondering, is there a connection or common thread linking, the 3 wines that we're tasting in this month's wine club?
There are common threads, and as unique as each wine is going to be, because we're going to talk about each of them individually because they come from a different place. And knowing that wine is liquid geography, right? Where they come from is very important. The grape variety has its own expression. The people that work, they have their own style, but there are common threads, and the commonalities are well balanced. That's key, right? When we drink wine or when we eat, right? You want to look for that balance in the glass. Then as well, we're going to look for wines that are highly expressive, high in aromatics, wines that are going to be more on the fresher side, just because we like that expression of freshness, things that are going to be more subtle in a good way, delicate. So the 3 wines that we have for the wine club this month are going to be wines that are very expressive, fresh, lively, and extremely well balanced.
That sounds amazing.
The aromas are very important because you know very well when you drink, before you actually sip the wine, you're ready by smelling it, right? That sense of smell. So the aromas are very important to start tasting the wine before you sip it. And those aromas are achieved if they harvest at the right time and the grape, has its full potential of expression. So it's not as simple to find wines that are, all that completeness.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. When you're tasting wines, like, what order should we taste these in, and how do you decide what order to taste wine in?
It's a matter of mood, what I'm in the mood for, right? That's just my preference. If we have a sparkling wine, I tend to start with a sparkling always. It's very friendly. It cleanses your palate. So if you've come all day from work and you're tired, right? That freshness and acidity level and the bubbles, it's going to refresh not only our palate, but it's going to send a signal to the stomach, right? Like now you're getting ready to start cooking and start eating. So normally I would say sparkling will be my first to start. But not as an idea of an appetizer or a party opener. It's because we're gonna talk about the cava later. It's throughout the entire meal, right? That we're gonna drink the bubbles. But that would be my first option. And then I think it's more of a society that has enforced us to think white first and red, last. But just do whatever you want. Start with the red and then finish with the white. There are no rules. It's what are you in the mood for?
I love that. No rules. Because I feel like oftentimes in the world of wine, you feel like there are a lot of rules. Like one thing that I have a question about, just very basic, when you're opening a bottle of wine, okay, and you have to take off the foil top.
Yes.
Where are you supposed to cut it? Because I feel like, and I have a bottle, it's not one of the ones because I have them all open, but like I see people who cut it here. I see people who cut it here. I see people who like twist off the entire thing and remove it. Like, what is the right way? Settle it for me.
I have learned that it is actually preferable to cut it here.
Here.
Yeah, I used to do it here, and now I do it here.
Do you know why?
I think because here you can still get some contact of the wine, so it's cleaner if you don't have the foil. And removing the foil, it kind of, it sort of like interferes with the looks of the bottle, right? So
yes. So no rules except on where to cut on the foil.
but I think the most common it's right here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad to know that. That means I did it correctly.
Yeah.
Great. Well, let's dive into the wines. Let's get into it. I'm going to let you drive the presentation and discussing the wines, and we'll take a sip and talk through the tasting notes and pairings, and I'll follow along and chime in with my thoughts, but you are the expert here. These are your wines, and so you're definitely the best person to lead this, and I'll hopefully ask good questions.
All right, you're too generous. I don't claim to be an expert by any means. The wine is made in the vineyard by the producers, the farmers. So as an importer, my responsibility is to source those products and to maintain them in good shape. When it comes to wine, I bring them in a temperature control container. I store them in a temperature control warehouse because wine is a live product, right? So it deserves to be at a lower temperature, well controlled. So that's my responsibility as an importer, right? I define my portfolio based on my values, my taste, and things that I like, that I know I can be behind and share that passion. So that's I think as an importer, the best that I can do is to do the sourcing, to maintain the product well, and to provide information. So this opportunity to have a conversation with you and then questions, it's the best that we can do for the wine. So thank you for that. And we're gonna start with the Cava by Dulina, right? So
this one.
Yes.
This one, yes. And and speaking of questions, let me just interrupt you for a second, Nuria.
Yeah, sure.
Anyone who's on, if you think of a question, just drop it in the chat. I will pay attention and try to address it, bring it up when appropriate. So I did want to just loosen that up, that you're welcome to throw questions in the chat. Okay, back to you with this beauty.
All right. So as a good Catalana, we drink bubbles every day. Bubbles is our quintessential drink, and I often say it's my milk. Like when I open the fridge, next to the milk, I have a bottle of Cava. And that's what I would start my breakfast. If I'm on a Sunday brunch and I don't have to work, I will do that in the morning. So what makes this Cava very special for me? First of all, it's a vintage Cava. Cava is a big appellation with a lot of mass-produced wine. And this is a small viticulturist. When I say small, I should say but I don't pronounce it well in English, but minuscule, right? Like very small producer. He only makes 2,000 cases of this cava.
Wow, that is
It's
not, so
nothing.
there's 12 bottles in a case. That is, I'm
Yeah.
calculating right now.
Yeah.
That's only 24,000 bottles. That is not a lot of
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very focused, very small. Why? Because he only makes wine from his own grapes. So if we compare in terms of putting in a larger context, right? We would say this is kind of like a grower champagne, right? So Raimon Badei is the person behind the wine. His family owns the property, and he has Xarel·lo, Macabeu, and Parellada, which are the quintessential classic trio of what makes cava. His vineyard is located in Massís del Garraf, which is a mountain natural park south of Barcelona on the Mediterranean. And I find this cava truly to be a gem. I mean, it's a great finding when you see bubbles and you want to have a true cava from a small producer, organic certified. This is a Brut Nature style, by the way, which I appreciate because that means there is no dosage, so there is no added sugar.
Okay,
So
so,
it's gonna be on the
yeah.
drier side.
and do you have like beautiful, do you have pictures of this particular one?
Yeah, I should
You
probably
should share it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so let me share my screen.
And while you're working on that, I'll just say,
Yeah.
so Brut Nature that's like the designation for, if it says those words, you know, it's the brut part is dry, right? And like the nature, is that what you mean by no added sugar, or is it the two together?
The two come together because you have,
Okay.
if it's brut or extra brut, that means a certain grams per liter of sugar allowed.
Okay.
So that's what it means. When it's Brut Nature, it means no added sugar at all. So the sparkling wine. So here we going back to what it said, you know, liquid geography, right? So that's the map of Spain. So we are in Barcelona area, and this is Raimon Badei. He is the maker of Cava Vaidolina. His family owns a Masia property south of Barcelona, Mediterranean climate. It dates back in the 1700s. It's a beautiful old farmhouse, and the vineyards are all inside the natural park of Massís del Garraf. So this is a protected mountain, gets all the coolness at night from the Mediterranean, has a good elevation, and those are his vines of Xarel·lo. So you can see,
Beautiful.
yeah. One of the challenges is you see how many pine trees are, right? It's because they are in this protected area. It's the vineyards are inside a forest.
Wow.
So it's beautiful. See the soil is very lively. And that's Raimon in the middle, the maker of the cava. And my partner, Sean, and I visited him last time in February. But every time I go to Barcelona, I try to pay a visit to them just to taste the new vintages and to share a good breakfast. Last time we were together, we picked fresh asparagus as we walked the vineyard. And then he prepared nice, you know, pam tumacat and fouet and grilled asparagus. And it was a perfect breakfast in the farmhouse. So
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So that looks like what we should be doing right now, which is pouring a little bit. And I'm going to do that. There was a question about, do you prefer a special type of glass for cava?
I do actually. I use a white wine glass.
Okay. So like this.
Yeah. And the reason is because you can smell more. You know,
it's not as like closed, like
the fruits are beautiful, and it's more what we know as, you know, traditional, but I enjoy it better with a white wine glass.
Mm.
Yeah.
So when you're guiding someone through tasting, like what are you telling them to look for and notice? Is there a proper order? I mean, I know they're like color and texture and aroma and taste.
I go to the aromas first and
Okay.
then actually the palate. Just see how it feels in the mouth after you take your time smelling. So swirl is important, right? To kind of like exaggerate those aromas and then smell and go and sip it.
This smells amazing. The like kind of that toastiness.
Yes. So we have, I think in the nose, you can see some of the white fruits, and the mouth is going to be a long finish. Very clean. It's dry, it's crisp, right? So you can see that freshness.
And that, yeah, like peaches and, but also, I don't know, I get like almonds and mineral as well. That could be just me.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're tasting wine, it's always embarrassing to share what you smell or taste. What are your thoughts about that?
I think, I think it's very intimidating. And we just got to express what we smell, what we taste, what we feel. And there is no wrong answer, and there is no, bad comment about it.
What I love about this is the minerality, but also the fruit. It's like those two things coming together. I get the aroma of the fruit, but also that kind of pastry, yeasty kind of light on that. But then the minerality and the acidity is so beautiful.
Yeah, when you said about, I think nuts, I think of like a brioche, like a pastry, right? So
like that.
So the way cava is made is following the traditional method of champagne, which is the second fermentation takes place in the bottle, and there is yeast, right? So that yeast is what is giving us those pastry notes, those hazelnuts in the wine. And I love this one very much because it's you have the fruits expression, you have kind of like a floral nose as well, and then you get that yeast and in the mouth, and long finish, very, very clean.
Absolutely.
So to me, this is the benchmark of what a good everyday cava should be.
It's amazingly balanced, like you said, as far as your portfolio and what you look for in wines. What do each of the three, different grape varieties, can you repeat the names of the three grape varieties that are in this wine, and why they're like a typical blend for cava, but also what each of them are bringing to cava?
Yeah, so Xarel·lo, Macabeu, and Parellada. And this wine in particular also has a little bit of Chardonnay.
And those are all, I mean, three wine varietals, Xarel·lo, Macabeo, Parellada, that are not the ones that typically, people think roll off the tongue. They'll Chardonnay is definitely one of them, Sauvignon Blanc, but those three are, I feel like, quite unusual to at least me.
Yeah, they're definitely out of our comfort zone. But it's what grows in Barcelona area. So it's the most common grapes for cava. And it was, I believe, in the late 1800s by the Raventós family. They experimented following the champagne method to make sparkling wine out of Xarel·lo, Macabeu, and Parellada. And that actually gave birth to what we know as cava today.
Wow.
So that tells you that it just takes one vision, right? A person's vision and the work to pursue it, to create something. I mean, wine was already created. right? Champagne already existed. The grape varieties were there, but it took someone to say, okay, I'm going to experiment, not unlike cooking, right? Every recipe, it's a new venture. So that's how cava came together, what we know as cava today. And the Xarel·lo, Macabeo, and Parellada are what I say the classic trio. They don't need to go all the time together, but that's what you see more common.
What pairing recommendations? You mentioned white asparagus, like you were talking about it, and that was something that I love, although I find it hard. I don't know, typically that's a hard thing to pair wine with. But I think sparkling, though, can kind of go beyond or help pair better with those more challenging pairings. But what do you think about pairings for this wine?
Yeah, the asparagus comment was because we were picking the asparagus as we walked the vineyard, and then Rai, put them on charcoal and roast them for a little bit, grill them. And we had breakfast with fouet and pam tumacat and some eggs. So that was our breakfast when we were together, and he was kind to cook for us at his farm. Pairing with sparkling wine, I think it's one of the easiest things to do. So take as many risks as you like. Sparkling, because of the high acid and the freshness, is going to cut through almost everything in a good way if you have a clean, dry cava like Valldolina, Brut Nature is. So I love cava with anything, but even with a lamb shank.
Oh, wow.
To take to the extreme, to just put people to think, let me just do it with anything. It's not just with seafood. It's not, with truly anything that you like. Sparkling wine is going to be one of the most versatile, if, together with sherry, in my opinion, the most versatile wines that we're going to have in front of us to pair.
Yeah. I mean, when Felix and I dine out and we know we're getting different types of things in a dinner, but we don't just, we don't want a wine pairing. Like, we don't want to drink that much wine. Yeah. We always pick a cava, a sparkling wine, because of that. There's something about the bubbles and the acidity keeps you wanting more. It like makes your mouth salivate. Yes.
Yeah, salivate. So
makes you want to eat.
Yeah, when a sip invites you to the next sip, for me, that's a good wine, right? So yes. there are wines that you may enjoy, but they're too heavy. And then, you drink it, you enjoy it, but that's it. You cannot take more. For me, a good wine is a wine that you sip it, and it invites you to the next sip.
Mm-hmm. And that is definitely.
Cava does that. Cava Valldolina does that for sure, because of its freshness, and it's dry and it's crisp, and that's when it shows the quality of the wine in a very good way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that balance of floral and the minerality and the fruit. It's amazing. And I definitely want another sip, but we should also try the next one, which this is one of the cutest labels I think I have ever seen in my life.
Cargol Treubi.
Yes, and cargol, that's one of the words in Catalan that I know, which means snail. I don't know exactly. I know V is wine. I don't know treu, what that means.
Treu is actually to take.
Okay, so it's like the snail taking the wine.
Yeah, actually, it comes from a children's song. So it's Cargol treu banya, puja la muntanya. So it's rhyming. And then Cargol treubi, puja al muntanyí. So what it says is, snail as you go up to the mountain, but snail, if instead of just taking your out, then you take the wine, then you're gonna go all the way to the muntanyí. So it's a children's song. Cargol treu banya, puja la muntanya, Cargol treubi, puja al muntanyí.
This is why, Nuria, I love Spain so much, because only in Spain would their children's songs be singing about wine. I just, so start the education plenty early. And
education is all about exposure, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when it comes to food, you know very well, traveling to Spain so many times, you know, food and wine, they come together. It's something that when I moved to the US, I was, you know, I missed, because you go for a meal and wine is not always present, right? And good wine is not easy to find. There is you know, many wines and a lot of wine that is produced, and nowadays it's not difficult to make a decent wine, because there is a lot of competencies and a lot of knowledge that is available to all of us to make a correct wine. But to find wines that are good, well made, interesting, you know, so thanks to, you know, Curate and the wine clubs and all that, bringing that awareness together and part of the culture, it means a lot.
I mean, it's why, Nuria, we like think about our wine club not ever getting very big, because it's, you know, because we want to be able to have wines where only, you know, 2,000 cases are being produced, and it's fun and allows us to be connected with any producer in Spain who's but we really trust you as the importer. So tell me about this wine and what makes it special.
So the grape variety here is only a single varietal, Xarel·lo, right? When we spoke about the Cava by Dolina, Xarel·lo was one of them. So Cargol Treubi is 100% Xarel·lo. It's special for multiple reasons. Having a single variety of Xarel·lo wine, still wine, it's still fairly new to Catalonia. So started, I'm going to say a decade, but I'm not, you know, not a scientific. So I don't know exactly, but let's say a decade ago, with a couple of producers, again, wanted to make Xarel·lo on its own. So only people that have older vines of Xarel·lo that are very competent making wines, they're able to provide a wine like Cargol Treubi. And Irene Alemany, she's a Catalana from Penedès, and Laurent Corriot, he's a Frenchman. They met at the University of Dijon in France, studying viticulture, and they are partner in life and partner making the wine. This Xarel·lo comes from a 75-year-old vine. The vineyard is located also in the Massís del Garraf. So geographically speaking, when we showed the map earlier,
Can you pull that back
that's
up?
Irene and yeah, let me go back to the map. Yeah. So
Here you go. Great. Yes, we can see it. This is good. And you can kind of move your cursor over it. So where are we now?
So let me first get this out here, because I see our faces. Perfect. Okay. So this is the Penedès area. That's Barcelona, right? Oops. So this is Barcelona, and this is the Penedès area. So that's where the Cava producer, as well as Irene and Laurent from Alemany Corriot, have their vineyards here. So very old vineyards of Xarel·lo. Xarel·lo typically has gone into Cava. Or to table wine.
Okay.
Right. So to have a single variety of Xarel·lo expressing as a complex wine, it's very interesting to me. I
don't think I have ever so this is 100%. I don't think I have ever had 100% Xarel·lo. I don't think I've ever tried it.
Yeah, it's uncommon. It's uncommon, but it's now when you go to Barcelona, if we had this discussion, if we had this discussion 10 years ago, I would not be able to say that. But now you go to Barcelona and you will have like a wine bar that is showcasing 5 Xarel·los. In my portfolio, I think I have 6 Xarel·los, like single variety Xarel·los now. It's interesting to get the expression of that grape variety that comes from Barcelona in a single varietal still wine. So Irene and Laurent are very loyal to French techniques. So they make this wine thinking of a Burgundian style. So when you think of this wine, think of Burgundy.
Okay. So Right. And I mean, typically in Burgundy, the white wine is Chardonnay is the varietal,
Yeah,
correct?
for white,
So
yes.
do you see similarities between Charello and Chardonnay, or just the way that
No,
this is now? Yeah.
it's the way Irene and Logan want to make it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I think
That's-
we should try it. Is the picture we're looking at the
Yes, that's the
wine, the
vineyard.
vineyard?
Yeah, that's and I love this picture to show the flowers and the vineyard.
That is beautiful. So those flowers are just growing among the vines. I see the vines, the like kind of between season.
Yeah, you see them here. They look like
Yes.
pretty old vines. Yeah, and here as well. Yeah. So when I walk into a vineyard and I see flowers, it tells me the message that the soil is rich. And a richer soil is gonna feed the vines, right? Better. So it's a good sign for me.
That is amazing. You know, it's so true that all of the nutrients and I mean, besides the sun, you know, and water, but all the rest of it, it's all coming from the ground. And so if you have healthy soil and really nutritious soil, you're going to have better wine. I mean, that's amazing. It's the same in food. You know, I recently discovered, you know, I feel like see these commonalities just between how incredible nature is. I went and went to a cheese producer, and what they were talking about is how important the grass is that the cows eat, because and that's first dependent on the soil. So if the soil is great, the grass is great. The cows eat the grass, it makes great cheese. Yeah. And so it's amazing to see the same. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but I'm really curious to taste this wine while looking at the impact that these beautiful flowers and soil have.
Yeah. So the cow eats the grass, but the vines, all they get is the water from the soil, right? So the richer the soil, the better grape that we're gonna have. And then potential for a good wine, right? Because not always a good grape is gonna give you a good wine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you
that's Irene and Logan. They're
very
wonderful.
happy.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Yeah. And this picture, it's a good picture just to tell the story where they make their wine. So they call themselves a garagist, so garage wine, because they actually make the wine in the garage. They don't have a fancy winery. They just need, like many French winemakers, right? All they need is just a place to have the tanks and to make the wine. And that's Irene and I last this year, you know, few months ago. But we'll go back to the vineyard picture, because this is absolutely beautiful to get the idea of the nature surrounding the vineyard.
What do you think, like when you taste this wine, how would you describe it? Wow, it is incredibly unique.
I love the floral aromas. And then in the mouth, the freshness, it's kind of, the texture in the mouth is creamy. I get a hint of apple at the end. But white flowers is probably what gets me most.
Yes, I get that. And a little bit of that like vanilla, the creaminess, you know, I think, and there's like a little effervescence on the end. It's just kind of leaves your tongue like a little bit tingly, you know, like reminds me of there's a particular flower, you know, that you eat. I don't know if you've heard of this flower. I'm going to blank on the name, but I'll think of it. There's like a particular flower that you eat that gives the same kind of impact. It's floral, but then has this little kind of effervescence to it. And what I love most about this is the balance of that kind of creamy quality with the acidity that cuts right through it.
Yeah, this is a wine also that is on the drier side. I think that it's less than 0.8 grams per liter of sugar, which is very, very low. The pH, I think is in the range of the 360. So great acid. And that's what you're getting. That's exactly what you're describing, right? That acidity that cuts through. There is some minerality as well in the wine, right? So it's all that balancing all those actors in the wine, and it's very elegant. It's very delicate.
Absolutely. And that like pear or apple that you were talking about, you know, I love that. What, you know, when we were tasting this together, we were thinking that this would be perfect with like a lemon and herb roasted chicken, like just, you know, because it has the a little bit of weight and body, you know, for a white wine. It's like it lingers with you, that it could stand up to those herbs on like a perfectly roast chicken.
Yeah. And going back to what we were talking earlier, right? This is a white wine and you are thinking of roasted chicken, right? I love that. I love that. It's not just white wine with seafood, right? And this is the type of white wine that for the wine club members that are more of a red wine drinkers, I think they're gonna love this white wine, because this is the kind of white wine that it has expression in the mouth. It's not just about, you know, the passage of just pleasantry, right? It's a white wine that it has more to offer to the wine drinkers. So if you are one of those members that prefer red wines, please let us know how you like this wine, because I think you're gonna like it. Yeah, and we were talking about the 2,000 cases of Valdolina. This is super hyper special because there are only 200 cases produced. That comes from a 2-acre vineyard.
200 cases from only 200 from a 200-acre vineyard.
Yes.
So
2-acre vineyard. Yeah.
2-acre.
2-acre. Yeah. 2-acre.
And vineyard. Only 200 cases. Yes. I mean, this is what I'm so excited about, because it's so wonderful because of our connection with you that we get to try these wines that, you know, it's going to be really hard to find them, you know, you get to like taste them and discover something, and then it's, you know, wait till the next year, you know, so it's that's incredible.
And there is one reason behind all that, is because that vineyard that Irene and Laurent, they feel is very special and it has something else to offer, because they also make another Charello wine, white wine, that is excellent. But for this one, they choose to only use the vines from that specific parcel because of, you know, when it comes to not only the age of the vines, but the orientation of the vineyard, the exposure to the sun and all that, right? So if we think of wine as a geographical expression, right? This bottle captures for them, for Irene and Laurent, not just the area and the grape variety, but that parcel in particular. So that's why the production is small, because they get what they get.
I mean, and that's exactly what you're talking about liquid geography, and not just like liquid geography on the larger scale of the world or even Spain as the country, but down to the acreage of the vineyard is what, you know, makes it completely different from any other wine that you could ever have.
And the French have known that and have done very well, right? When they do all their classifications, the Grand Cru, the Premier Cru. And when you look at a wine region in France and you really want to spend hours and hours and hours learning, there is much to learn. There is a lot to learn, right? Because they break it down to parcels. In Spain, we still have a lot of work to do, but there are people like Irene and Laurent, you know, they don't need the appellation to tell them what it is. They know the expression of their soil and those vineyards, and they just capture in the bottle. And that's their story, whether it's already recognized by the appellation or not, it doesn't matter, right? They want to send that expression through the bottle of Cargol Treubi, which is different than Principia Mathematica. They both make those wines, right? But they have different things to express. And that's what wine is about. It's not only the geography, obviously the grape variety, the vines, the environment, the vintage, the climate of that year, but it's what the farmer's vision is, what their point of what they want to make. And that's the beauty of wine, and our portfolio captures all those stories from the people that make the wine and what they want to express.
That is so beautiful, and why, I get so excited about wine. Tell us about, let's move over to the flower and the bee.
The flower
La flor y la
bee.
abeja.
Yeah.
Yes.
La flor y la
abeja. I love the nature theme on a couple of the labels with this club, flowers and bees and snails and rainbows.
Yeah, so with the flower and the bee, La Flor y la Abeja, we're gonna go to Galicia. When I was earlier saying that I am from Barcelona on the northeast of Spain, but I spent my summer childhoods in Galicia. My father was from La Coruña, and my family from my dad's side welcomed me every summer to spend time with them. And I love it. The weather is completely different. I mean, this is the Atlantic Ocean. This is Portugal, right? So Barcelona's in the Mediterranean, right? South of France, facing Italy. This is Galicia. Galicia rains every single day. In Spain is known their beef, La Ternera Gallega, to be the best because the grass that the cows ate, right? It's the Ireland of Spain. It's very green, rainy. It's absolutely beautiful. And the flower and the bees from a small producer in Ribeiro, this wine appellation. And the name of the wine is because when there are flowers and bees in the vineyard is when the new cycle of the vine starts. So that's the sign that, because they harvest, right? When they harvest. So when is the new cycle of the vine gonna start? So that's what represents the cycle of the vine. That's what Galicia, that's Coto de Gomariz, the producer. That's what Galicia looks like. They have a lot of eucalyptus trees, a lot of pine trees, and it's super beautiful.
Look how different.
This is the vineyard of the flower, Coto de Gomariz.
I was just going to say, look how different that vineyard is and landscape from the other, Pinedas, it's so different.
Yeah, I don't know, because sometimes it's once you have been in a place, you cannot take what you know apart from what you see, right? So I see this picture and I feel it's wet, right? But I've been there. It's very, very green. It's kind of like effervescent green, right?
Yes, and like kind of hazy, or like there's just exactly wet in the air.
Yeah. And in Galicia, there are many local grape varieties. When we talk about wine, you may hear often asked to say indigenous grape varieties, native, local. It all means the same. It's what grows in the land, right? What's been growing in many cases for hundreds of years. So Coto de Gomariz is the producer, and it's located in what's known the Golden Mile of Ribeiro, Ribeiro being the appellation, the wine region. And it's the oldest wine region in the Iberian Peninsula, Ribeiro.
Wow.
Yeah. And there is a lot of richness in grape varieties. When you read a wine label of a Galician wine, whether it's from Ribeira Sacra or Ribeiro, Rias Baixas, not so much, but as well, there is a lot of grape varieties that sometimes is the first time you hear them. In Coto de Gomariz, has multiple of them, and their flagship wines, it's blends of mainly Treixadura for white and Sauzon for red. And the Flower and the Bee was born about 15 years ago when they decided to make more of an entry-level wine of the principal grape varieties that they have in the region for white Treixadura and for red Sauzon. And what we have this month in the wine club is the Sauzon, which is the red grape variety. So it's a single variety, it's very focused. And what wants to do this wine is just wants us to know what Sauzon tastes, to bring some awareness and to bring that, attention to the grape variety. Those are wines that are made for, with the idea of younger generation to drink wine, just to chat. When you get together with friends, just have a glass of wine. Don't have a cocktail, don't have a beer. Nothing against that, but the wine culture needs more attention in the younger generation. So that was the reason behind the Flower and the Bee.
And Sauzon is an unusual grape variety, for me at least. Can you connect it to a varietal that we would recognize? I mean, I feel like I get this question all the time in the restaurants. People want to understand what more common or familiar varietal that it is closest to. Yeah. What do you think about that question?
I think it's a very difficult question to answer, because we tried, just Spain alone, we have hundreds. When I say hundreds, it's not 200 or 300, or hundreds of grape varieties. And this question, if we want to give an answer that will make comfortable the person that asked, we only have probably 5 or 6 to relate to, right? Pinot Noir, Grenache, Cabernet, Merlot, and maybe Petit Verdot, and not much more. So it's a very difficult question to answer. So I would say, unless there is genetically something associated with the grape variety, that then will be a correct answer from a technical standpoint. Just taste it and see what you can relate to the wine. And it's always very personal answer, because when, you mentioned the rotisserie chicken earlier with lemon, right? With Cargol Treuby. When you said that, instantly I had flavors in my mouth of what I know that to be. But I'm sure everyone of the members of the club, they have completely different expectation of that dish than me, because it's based on what they have tasted, right? A rotisserie chicken, it's still chicken, but it's different than a chicken tikka masala, and still chicken. So when I say this might be similar to a Grenache, to you it could translate completely different, because what type of Grenache you have tasted, how they were made. So it's
a tricky question.
Yeah, and it's expected to receive, because we want to grasp to something, right? But I would say just sip it and drink it and make your own association of ideas based on your experience, what you have been exposed to.
And I mean, I think that's why, this club with you this month, Nuria, has been so fun, because we have Xarel·lo, Macabeo, Parellada, another 100% Xarel·lo. We have this 100% Sauzon, like these words and names of wines that you might not grab if you were going into a restaurant or a wine retail shop on your own, because it's this like, you don't know what it's going to be like. So, but when a bottle shows up on your doorstep, I guess you better try it. So let's try it. So.
Yeah, let's try it. And I would say, if you try this wine, I know some of you are on the beach right now, but if it's hot and you're gonna get like some food on the grill to barbecue, just give it a little chill on this red wine. And it's not intended to drink cold by any means, but the temperature is gonna, the outside temperature is gonna raise the temperature of the glass pretty soon if it's warm outside, right? So give it a chill and try it with something that you cook in the grill.
Yes. that sounds amazing. This I definitely immediately get that kind of like pepper, but also, we had on the notes currants, like there's some fruit, but it's
For me, it's a lot of dark berry. It's
yes.
intense red fruits, and in the aroma, it depends, bottle to bottle, obviously, but often I get like kind of like licorice aromas.
Absolutely. Yes, you are right. I get the licorice too. And you're going to find this funny. We even thought that we had notes of, cola, like Coke, Coca-Cola. And so our food pairing recommendation for this month is, so we have a recipe in the restaurant, which I'm going to make you all jealous because I'm going to show that I have ribs here with me. We shared a recipe. They're calimocho braised pork ribs. Don't make calimocho with this wine. Okay. Just making that clear. Like we're not saying, yeah.
Calimocho, it's a sin drink.
Yes. Yes. It's when you're first starting out and you're looking for something to enjoy. And so Coca-Cola and red wine together and you drink it and it sounds great, but don't do that. However, take a cheaper red wine and make these pork ribs and they're so good with this. I think it's like the grilled meat thing, like with this particular wine, it's perfect.
Nice. Now we're all hungry, huh? Yeah. So
exactly.
yeah. So the property of Coto de Gomariz, there is an interesting story behind. There is a family by the name of Carreiro, a family that emigrated to South America. And I'm gonna go back to the map. So this is Galicia, the Northwest. This is the ocean, right? So during the Civil War and the dictatorship that Spain unfortunately went through in the 1900s, so 1936 to 1939, there was a civil war that ended up with the dictatorship of Franco until 1975. So people from the Northeast emigrated to France, some, and a lot of people from Galicia, they immigrated to South America. So when you go to Argentina, there is a lot of communities of Gallego. When you go to Cuba, a lot of community from Gallegos. So the Carreiro family is one of multiple families that emigrated, but in the 70s, they came back to Galicia and they acquired this property that we know as Coto de Gomariz that dates back to the 10th century. So there is one of the wines that they make that it's in homage to the 10th century roots of the property. So it's one of the oldest properties, and the Carreiro family has been pretty centric in the farming part of it. And it's been about 10 years that they are organic certified and pretty much paying attention to what they can do to to the land. And that's where the flower and the bee comes from, a very old property, family run, and from someone that after missing all the products of Galicia, now they have come back to make wine.
That's an amazing story and history to this wine.
Yeah, and one thing that I like to say, and that goes for, I think it captures the moment of the wine scene in Spain, and I hope to make justice with my portfolio to that, is I am, because not everybody's on the same, birth age, but I am of a generation that my grandparents suffered a civil war, my parents, a dictatorship. And my generation, we've been very, very fortunate, and we have been given the right to educate ourselves. So many households in Spain, we have heard, you gotta go to college, you gotta go to la universidad. What do you want to study? I mean, I was given a choice, but I wasn't really given much of a choice because my parents were trying to tell me, what would you like to study rather than would you like to go to college or not? Because they were big believers that by educating, you will do better in life, right? And it's true. So the winemakers that I capture in my portfolio, those are winemakers that they are making wine not by circumstances, because they have options. They're making wine by choice and with passion. And that's the passion that we were discussing earlier in the call, right? One of the things that I look, it's passionate people that are driving by their own point of view. They have gone to college. Some of them, they have gone to agricultural engineering. Some of them, they have gone to business school, but they have gone to college, they have educated themselves, and now they're farming by choice because they like that connection to nature. They like to capture, that terroir in a bottle. And that's a beautiful thing that we see now in Spain. So very encouraging to continue, tasting and discovering, because there is many people in Spain that are doing wines with, with precision, with an idea of what they want to achieve.
Yeah, I think that's the passion behind it, and the thing is that with that passion that they are bringing, we get moments of having a wonderful, incredibly produced, well-balanced, interesting wine that is reflective of one location, one specific spot at one specific moment in time that can never be reproduced, exactly the same way, because there's too many variables, the weather and the year and like all of the things. And then you get to enjoy it with friends and family. And the wines that you were selecting is creating moments of joy, in my life. And
yeah, it's very hard to eat food without wine.
Yes, exactly. Right? They need one another.
Yeah, they do. A good wine is gonna enhance, the flavors of the plate, right, of the food, but also it's gonna enhance our conversation.
Right, exactly. Well, I encourage everybody
they go together.
That's right, they do. Well, I encourage everybody to make this rib recipe, by the way, because it is amazing. And I want to thank Nuria. Nuria, if you want to close out of the presentation, unless you have anything else to share on the presentation side. Okay, great. And then we'll open it up. I don't know if anybody has any questions that they want to throw into the chat that came up during watching this and hearing from Nuria about the passion. I'll give you guys a few minutes. Otherwise, I'll stop the recording and we can turn on our cameras and say hello. So
I would say it's gone by fast to me. I don't know for the listeners, but
it has gone by fast. Well, that's because you love wine, so, and share that passion. And, I think for me, a little bit about the stories of the people and behind the wines that you selected for this month with us. But I had no idea just how special, and again, like the smallness of the production. And we've been talking, I don't even know that you know this, but we're talking about hosting. We've been talking to Sean, who you showed a photo of earlier. Yes. And Nuria, I don't know if you even know this, but we've been talking about doing a wine dinner here on October 5th with him, with your wine, some other of your wines. So I'm just saying that to everybody. If it comes to fruition, which we're all working hard to make it happen, you will hear first if you're a wine club member. So there will be much more to learn about the passion and stories behind the wines that Nuria selects.
That would be fantastic. And if I can, I'll come.
Exactly. Now that would be extra special. So great. Well, what I will do is unpin, I'm going to stop recording now. So let me say thank you to everybody, but don't go away because I'm going to stop recording and then we can turn our cameras off. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Nuria, thank you so much for being here and going through these wines with us. It's super extra special. So. All right, till next time.